So yes, so let's talk about Doomcock.
Yeah.
A good friend of ours. I wouldn't say discovered, but we did help elevate early on in his career. Let's say uh, we don't normally help super villains, but once in a while, there's a villain or two that they're not totally wrong. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. You know what I'm saying? Kind of thing. But no, we love Doomcock as on a personal level. He's a good friend of ours, and people started bringing this issue up to me yesterday, and at first I saw this clip because I haven't been watching the show, like I said, and I'm like, maybe, because I do know that a lot of us in this sphere are on Disney's radar. Let's just say that there's more than enough proof of that. We don't need to go down all the reasons we know why, but yeah, let's just say we do know that. So I didn't totally count it out, but I'm like, I just don't want to jump to any conclusions right away that a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but that a few people would, just because of some similarities. But then a lot of people started noticing it, and it started trending, and it's been trending ever since. It's still trending as of now, last I looked. But yeah, apparently people believe, and I can't anymore kind of, I mean, I'm still skeptic, but I'm not as skeptic as I was, because it does seem a bit odd.
I will say I think it's more likely that this is a deliberate dig
Yeah.
than that it's coincidental. I'm not going to say, oh, it 100% is, but I will say I do find it more likely that this is intentional. And we know with 100% certainty that the people running these shows and stuff like that, they're not in a vacuum chamber. They are aware of all of us. They're aware of Doomcock. Well, they all know who he is. Like, we know that we are on Alex Kurtzman's radar personally. Like, we've heard from so many people that, yeah, they know us, they know our channels. Every creative, every person in a writer's room, if they go to YouTube and they look for like reactions to their show, who's going to come up? Oh, it's going to be Doomcock. It's going to be Geeks and Gamers. It's going to be Nerdrotic. It's going to be us. It's going to be Ryan Kinnell. It's going to be Despato. It's going to be the Critical Drinker. It's going to be the people in our circle, because we are the ones, all, like, not just we, Midnight's Edge, but we in this sphere of the internet. We are the places where people gravitate towards when you want independent commentary. It's going to be one of these channels in this sphere. So I guarantee you, the women in the writer's room, they are aware of Doomcock, and they're probably not fans.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We've heard enough stuff back that I didn't. Again, I was skeptic at first, and I am still somewhat skeptic, but at the same time, like you said, Andre, I do know that we're on their radar, and I do know they personally hate Doomcock.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I mean, they view us slightly differently. Oh, but boy, they hate Doomcock.
well, the difference is they know who we are.
Yeah.
That's what pisses them off about Doomcock, is they can't get him, and this is the only way they can get him, right? Like, to us, they've gone around in certain ways and done certain things, and we've learned in other ways, let's just say, of what they think of us and why they think such things. But as far as Doomcock goes, they put on full display, and this is where I'm not so sure that it isn't a coincidence, let's say, because the things that they have these people saying sounds exactly like somebody with very cursory, like, viewing of a Doomcock video, and especially one that may be directed at them, would view them, and the words that they put in his mouth, right? Those
well, I didn't
really
recognize it as Doomcock at all, because the stuff that they were doing is nothing that Doomcock would ever do.
That's just it. It's a parody. That's what I'm saying. It's
not even a parody. It's an afterthought copy and paste. It's like, oh, I saw this thumbnail. Oh, I saw this tweet quote. That's all the research I'm gonna do. Here we are.
It is a very cursory kind of thing. That's what I was trying to get at. Is it's not like they actually dove into Doomcock and listened to what he was actually saying. Is what I'm getting at. It's almost like a secondhand.
To actually make fun of.
Here's actually a better thing. I was going to say it's more like a secondhand account from somebody, and that's what I think it might be more so. like somebody telling and explaining, somebody showing, like Script Doctor said, just showing a few pictures and saying, this is what this guy keeps saying, and this is how he acts, and this is what he does, and he says these things. Because the things that and this is why I was saying this, because the things that they're saying, that let's just say for the sake of argument that this is them commenting on Doomcock. I'm just saying, playing devil's advocate. This is what a lot of his detractors claim Doomcock says, and the way he says them. That's what stuck to me. Not so much the mask, not so much the voice. It was what they were putting in his mouth. And it's like, you know what? This sounds like a lot of what his critics say he says. That's what I was trying to get to. So it almost feels like a secondhand account from somebody else.
Or the telephone game, and how many people passed on a message before it got to them. It's probably more than secondhand. It's like 10th or 12th hand.
Yeah.
Because again, I watched the episode. Doomcock did not enter my mind when I saw this at all. I was like, oh, we got guys in masks doing horrible things to Jen.
Right.
Like, and then people are like, oh, Doomcock's like, really? Doomcock would never do that. Doomcock won't dox someone. Doomcock won't share personal private information of somebody. He's a supervillain, but he's not petty. That's
these guys were kind of like Antifa.
Yeah.
I didn't get the Doomcock connection. It was also another stupid externally applied baddie thingy that was, inserted into the show. We knew it was going to come, but again, it's one of the stupid parts of what they've been doing with this series. So yeah, I thought it was, I hated that ending. Hated everything, every single aspect of it, including her dress. I hated her dress.
So yeah, for all those reasons you just said originally, Script, I didn't think of it at first. I'm just like, oh, people are just equating it because of the mask and the voice.
Fun rumor though.
Yeah. But then I thought about it, and a few people. Yeah, well, and he has commented on it. He did a video about it. So I mean, if you want to see what he has to say, you can head on over there and check that out after the show. And I did send him a link. I don't know if he's awake or if he's free, but if he's able to, I'm sure he'll hop in. But
did he think it was a copy?
I think he thinks along the same lines of what Script and I were just discussing. I think he thinks it's their interpretation of whatever they think he is. Because again, it's like the things that they put in his mouth are things that a lot of his detractors say about him. They're like, oh, he says this and he says that and he does this and he does that. It's like, no, he doesn't say or do any of those things that you just said. In fact, he even points out in his video, and I've been around him when he does a lot of his reviews on the Sunday nights. He's been pretty even-handed with the show. Sure, he doesn't like it, but he will articulate his reasons why. It's not like he's sitting out there going, oh, it's women this and whammon that and blah, blah, blah. It's the way they portrayed him is exactly the way his detractors talk of him. And I'm not going to even say their names because there's certain people who are, let's say, their own cheap knockoffs of Doomcock themselves. And that's how they talk about how he talks. And that's what a lot of people were picking up, I think. At least that's the messages I started getting yesterday, later in the afternoon. And that's when I kind of finally took notice of it. And then as soon as I saw it trending, I'm like, okay, there's something to this. Right. So evidently I don't want to like jump to any conclusions here, but I was like, okay, so there may be something to it. And I'm curious what everybody else thinks on that. Culture, you have been quiet. And I know you been keeping up with the show more than I have. So
yeah, well, that's one of the hazards of being on Comics Division show. But I have forced into certain things. But this show, as Henri described earlier, and it was 100% right. This show has been getting progressively worse since the first episode. And seeing it all at once, maybe you have a different perspective if you saw the first 3 episodes together, maybe the first 4, but by the 5th episode you were like, this is terrible. The 6th episode was worse. 7, garbage. And then we get to this episode and I am like, this character has nothing redeemable. I don't like Jen. But when they start to go after us, which they've been doing the entire time, and then they try to throw, you know, us all into one group, and maybe this is Doomcock represented here, maybe it's not. There were two of them on the screen. It wasn't just one. There were two people wearing masks. You know, and you know, I guess they're trying to draw, like, you know, similarities between people being anonymous and having opinions versus people, you know, showing their face like many of us do here, you know, on YouTube. You know, Doomcock is entitled to not show his face. He's got a great bit going on. He does very interesting videos. I've been you know, a member of his channel for a very long time. Maybe I think it might even be 2 years now. But he, at the same time, this could represent not just Doomcock, but any kind of an anonymous group. Like, I mean, I thought my first guess wasn't even Doomcock. It was like, oh, wow, they're going after Anonymous, or they're going after 4chan, or, you know, similar. Right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. But I mean, there's other things. Like, there's clearly the critics, I'll say. Well, not just that, but I'm saying, like, stuff is getting to these writers because they're using the Twitter and the YouTube comments and all those kind of things in the show. It's a lot like the Ghostbuster syndrome. Yeah. It's like they can't not say something about it, but in them saying something about it is showing their weakness, right? Well, so go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm just going to add to that because we talked about it a little last night, and I'll say it here too. We are so far in their heads. They think about us constantly when they're crafting this, and then they try to put in their little gotchas or zaps or whatever, their digs at the people who criticize what they're doing. We're not wrong. We're just in their heads, and they hate that. In all honesty, yeah. But
and Doomcock is a parody of himself.
Right, indeed. Yeah, he's supervillain. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing, he knows this is a joke. He's expanded on it. I mean, his first big shtick was to go after Kathleen Kennedy. And, you know,
that was the second shtick. That was
he started with Star Trek Discovery in Kurtzman.
Oh, I see.
And I'm very, very proud.
And J.J. Abrams,
on the record that Midnight's Edge was one of his sources of inspiration because we did that. So I take full credit for that. So, yeah.
We need to have our own masks.
Yeah. And for those wondering, I did send him the link. I don't know if and when he'll see it.
I did too, yeah.
But Doomcock, he is a good friend of ours. Tom, you are on his streams on a regular basis, and he is welcome here anytime he wants. Time zones and streaming times permitting. That's kind of like the thing. That's the only reason that I haven't been on his streams for a while, is because he streams in the middle of my night.
Yeah, and he also helped save the Expanse. That was another thing too. And yeah, he's made his imprint, that's for sure. And we have Mikey in the background here. How you doing, buddy?
Very well. I figured since you're talking Doomcock, I wanted to jump on. Had a few points, especially since I probably know him. Well, I maybe not know him as long as Tom and Andre, but I know him better than probably almost anybody because I'm pretty close to him. But I want to throw a few things out. One of them is that the origin video of Midnight's Edge with Doomcock is absolutely hilarious, and it is just some of the funniest work that Tom's ever done. So I just want to throw that out there. But I want to say that what Culture said about we're in these people's heads. I'm not even I wouldn't call myself a YouTuber that cares about my channel. I mean, I guess I am a YouTuber, but I mean, I'm not like, you guys. In the sense that, I'm out there. But I've been recognized just by Mike Mexican Iron Man. There's a Hollywood studio that I picked up as a client that I'm starting their work for in January. And because I happen to be Mexican and we got a discussion about movie and theater, they said, are you the same Mike that's a Mexican Iron Man on Doomcock show? And I also got recognized for Midnight's Edge After Dark. I mean, even like I was at a cigar bar at an event in West Hollywood when I was out there back in February and got to talking. And I mean, it's, you guys like you, Andre, Tom, Chato, in particular, where they know who you are and even Doomcock, they don't necessarily know his name. You guys are unbelievably well exposed. Don't take, they absolutely, I mean, like when I met with these studio guys, they wanted to know, well, what do they really think? I'm like, they think what you see on their videos. That's what these guys think. And I really think you guys are really in their heads a lot. I mean, And I mean, just, the showrunner, she put herself on camera twice in the show already, right? Have you recognized her? I mean, I guess me and Culture are probably the only ones.
No, I haven't watched it since the third episode.
Yeah, she in fact, in the when they're giving out the awards, you can see her. She's standing on the left. She's, I think, third from the left on the stage. When she wins the award in the last episode, when they're doing the award announcement. That's the second.
Basically,
time.
She gave herself an award.
Yeah, so that's the second time she has literally put herself as a showrunner on screen. Chato, you would never do that. Okay. Yeah, you would never do that. You'd be more worried about the show, the audience, the craft, and the execution and the production long before you'd worry about putting yourself in.
I'd be the waiter.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the thing is that, the scene, and I'm, of all the guys on this panel, I'm probably I have the most experience, the most number of years, and I'm the most active in the dating market. It's a running joke, but I am. Okay, it's a running joke, but I am. I've been actively, prolifically dating, smoking hot chicks for well over 2.5 decades. Okay, and so everything you're seeing on the She-Hulk show, which I have been watching, is exactly what's happening in the dating market, and it's reflecting it. And so you just go a step further, like, is this plausibly Doomcock? Well, let's see. They put themselves on screen. They write themselves their own shitty stories about dating. They don't give a shit about the fans. I have no doubt that this is a jab at maybe Doomcock is the face of it, but they hate us. They hate everything we do. They hate what we say. That's why they call it all fan service, because, what does the word service mean? It's like customer service. If they cared about what we thought, they would give us what we want, but they don't. It's all about, like what Chato says, they're writing it for themselves, and they're writing it for their cocktail buddies, and they're writing it for their girlfriends when they meet up for these wine parties and their crappy ass miserable lives. That's what they're doing it for. Woo! I've seen it. I've met them. I've hung out with them. I've dealt with them, and I got sick of them, and that's why I closed my production accounting office in Santa Monica, because I don't want to deal with any of these scumbags anymore.
And if I may add, and you banged them and you did the walk of shame afterwards.
No, Mexican Iron Man
is the one who makes them do the walk of shame.
No, Mexican Iron Man does not leave his place in the morning. They can take their heels and leave in the morning.
That's what I would say. Yeah, he makes them do it.
And if I happen to stay at their place, I assure you, I'm walking out like a rooster. Whether it's 3 a.m. or 7 a.m. or 10 a.m., I'm walking out like a rooster.
Well, and it's funny, you just made me kind of realize something, I think, Mike, and I could be very wrong, but at the same time, I don't think I'm far off. I think that part of this whole movement, the political thing, all this bullshit, yes, part of it is motivated by money and politics and all that business. But I think you hit on one note, is that these people do want to be liked and loved, right? Like they want that admiration. They want that respect. They want all those things. But they know they're not going to get it from the nerd community. So what's the easiest way to get that love and admiration and respect from a big crowd using said IP? Well, it's to turn it into whatever it is that the modern movement is with the kids, right? Well, there you go. That's a lot of probably the motivation behind this, is they know they're never going to win us over, but they know that as long as they make this show, whatever kind of, you have this character and that character represent this and that and the other in diversity and claim it's under attack by, misogynistic and racist people, then you're going to get a large swath of people that are going to come out in support of it. And that's what they know that they can do. They can do that. They can manipulate that. It's a way of doing it.
It's the swath within the LA borders.
Exactly. It's the ones they know they can play to. Like you said, Paul, they're making this shit for themselves.
And when I was down there, and the Variety and Hollywood Reporter continues to be a Bible, but it was even more so back then because we would get it on our desk weekly or daily. And then I had an assistant who would clip all the reviews of anything that we were working on and staple them together into a giant photocopied block every single frickin' day, and that would land on my desk, and I'd go through what everybody was saying about everything that I was working on, and you get really sucked into what everybody is saying, and I'm sure this, our quotes and things are being clipped and sent to these people all the time as part of a package of internal notes.
I think so. I vehemently think so, and they hate all of you or all of us or all.
Oh, for sure.
We do. It is just, and it's too bad because some of my greatest joy on YouTube has been listening to, like, say, Script or Tom, or when you guys get going and you fix stories and You know, I think I heard you, Chato, do that the other day with script as well. You know, where you guys start to play, you use your brilliance, you use your technical skill. And I've heard you guys do it many times in 5 to 20 minutes. Tom and Andre have done it when they talked about some of the fantasy genres. I've heard you guys in 5, 10, 15 minutes solve a problem that hundreds of millions of dollars created as a disaster. And I've heard you guys do it over and over again.
Well, Mikey, I think the worst part,
if they would just listen to you guys, listen to you, Andre, listen to you, Tom, listen to all you guys script, you know, Chato, if they would just literally just take the time to turn up the humility meter, open up the ears and shut the hell up and listen. You guys have solved so many problems for them. And it's been one of my great joys that's kept me on YouTube is to, as a fan of all of this stuff, to listen to you guys dance and play and fix all this stuff the way it could be fixed.
They'll never do that.
It's we actually love the shows and we want
some do. Like I've heard from some that when they write things, I've heard this from some like up and coming, like a new generation of writers, and they do watch all our.
That's not what I'm talking about, though.
But
I'm talking about the ones that are in the room right now, and it's a little bit. I will give exception.
That's a different matter. Those that are in the room right now.
Well, and yeah, I do like my rework of Ironheart, but I'm only a semi-professional, right? And that needs to be pointed out here. Script and Paul are professionals in this field. Andre and myself and Culture are kind of semi-professionals. We're more in the journalism side of things. So yeah, we do already have some writing experience. The difference is, though, us, if you take Script and Paul out of the equation, all of us here on the panel, besides that, other people in our sphere have written these shows better. That speaks to the volume here. I'm not surprised when Script and Paul can work out, because you've got two professionals working together doing what they do. Right. That is like basically watching, you know, a machine do what it's supposed to do when you turn it on and the batteries are charged up and everything. Yeah. But when you get us and other non-professionals doing this shit and their jobs better for them, that speaks volumes to the writing. That's what surprises me, because I'm not any way, shape or form a professional writer. I can come up with some ideas and I can do whatever, but I need somebody like Script to plug into and give me direction. Right? Because otherwise I'm a fucking Fugazi all over the fucking place with ideas and shit. So you need those kind of people in charge of the writer's room to go, yeah, that's a great idea, but it's not going to work here. Right? But what if you do this and you do that? Then you can do that. Right? That's what these people aren't, though. They aren't those kind of problem solvers. And that's part of being a writer too, is part of it's just being a problem solver. And a lot of them aren't even that anymore. They don't care. It's all about, we need to get this on the screen, just make it happen.
You know what else we're missing is the fact that these shows are not produced on a weekly basis on a with network pressure. The shows would be vastly different if they had a schedule.
Another thing, yeah.
If they had to produce them the way Star Trek or any of these TV series, any TV series that exists right now, NCSI, whatever it happens to be, if they had to have to deliver every single week that videotape, that piece of digital file,
with threats of being moved to Friday at 11 if they don't get it back together.
You know what?
You want to go to the graveyard, keep it up.
You know, when it was one of the funny things when I moved from television over to computer programming, is that the computer programming business, a deadline is only representative of how late the project is. So that's a saying that we have in the programming. And I've been working on multi-million-dollar programming jobs. And I came from network TV. And I went into this and I went, when I was doing a show, I couldn't tell the network, oh, you know, this Tuesday at 7, put something else on. You know, we're not done. No, it's got to be done. Even if I'm running to the facility that is distributing the show, broadcasting the show, you have to do it. And even Star Trek, there's a history, or I believe the story is true, where they literally had wet processed film that they handed to the telecine operator and had them run the wet film through the telecine just to get the show broadcast on time. So I don't know whether that's a real story or not, but I did hear.
I can believe it.
And that adds a different kind of tension. And when we were doing computer programming, I thought I'd apply network television rules to computer programming and say, no, you're not going to be late.
Well, what you just described there, Paul, is what keeps Matt Stone and Trey Parker on their toes. still to this day with South Park, is they basically force themselves into doing one entire show in a week.
It's discipline.
They could do it all year round, and sure, you could chalk it up as laziness, but no, they found out that the longer they have to concentrate on the things, they second guess the jokes. They're not as fresh. By the end of the show, it's too polished in certain ways. Like, you got too many ABC stories going on, they'll say, and he goes, we realize that after so long, you just want one story, maybe two at the most. And if we're on the fly, if we're under the gun, like you're just explaining, Paul, we're not second guessing those jokes anymore. They made us laugh in the moment. They're still making us laugh now because we weren't working on them for 6 months or 3 months.
And I think in that sense, streaming television has created a different feeling for those shows.
Well, to add that in with CGI, which is on the other side of things, where I've said time and time again.
That adds an awful lot to the budget and time of the show. So She-Hulk, I think, is an interesting example. But, if they had the network pressures to try to crank that out, you'd get a very different show.
Well, that's what I mean, yeah. But there's all of that, of course, but they can't change directions. And I think you've talked about that, Paul. Because they shoot it all at once, and because they're doing this
like a movie,
scrapbook methodology, right? And Tom, like a movie, they're shooting it all at once, and they scrapbook these pieces together, and sometimes the stories are convoluted for that very reason, because they were trying to make things fit together. And then ultimately, the last deadline that they constantly blow through is the CGI, which is why these shows look so terrible. And and again, they blew the CGI once again in this most recent episode of She-Hulk. And they're not going to acknowledge that it doesn't look good. I mean, and she had facial shifts during many close-ups when she was in She-Hulk form that were not great. And I mean, it's you don't want to see blur on a close-up. I mean, it's just dumb. And I just okay, so you're hiding the fact that you didn't have enough time to get this done, and it's it's distracting, and there are enough things that distract you in any of these Marvel shows or even these Star Wars shows. There's enough there to distract you from the story that'll pull you out. There are too many big asks, and it's because none of these writers have the kind of experience that they need. At least, but you can just see the personality of each of these people dripping out on the screen, and that's also a problem with this show. But ultimately, it comes down to the fact that they can't change directions. Paul, that's 100% right.
Yeah, and it's also clear that they don't know what. They're not entertainers. So they haven't, I don't believe they've been on stage where if you have a stage show, you start off with your best joke and you finish with your best joke.
Yeah.
And there's a showpersonship, to showmanship, whatever, to this entire business. And one of the things that was so good about the Bill Bixby Hulk, which probably also had to do with the fact
that show.
The way it was
one of
set
the
up.
best shows ever made.
Sorry, so the hulking out was always the dessert. By having Jen, mostly She-Hulk, they're missing the anticipation of her becoming.
You're
She-Hulk.
right, Paul. It was an event because we knew as a kid watching it myself. And I don't know. Can't speak for everybody else in their age groups. But to me, that was it, because I knew as a kid we were only getting 2 Hulk outs an episode,
right?
And when those happen, that's it. It's you're only getting 5 minutes of Hulk a show, and that was what you were waiting for. And in this show, you're right. Having her be the Hulk all the time, it loses its meaning. It'd be like having Batman walk around all the time as Batman, even when he's supposed to be Bruce Wayne.
Exactly. So this is my point: is that they didn't understand, the audience's need to anticipate that dessert topping.
Yeah.
They're just giving us dessert the entire time. Here it is. Eat sugar, here's sugar, more sugar, more sugar. And then you just get bored. And you're fat and you're lazy.
And well, to put to the antithesis, in the Adam West show, Batman was Batman 90% of the time.
Yeah,
it's the
that's
fact
true.
that they made it was an engaging story that we got to see through his eyes. With regards to She-Hulk and the streaming model, because I've been pondering this, because parts of it seem similar to how writing and producing a cartoon is, because you have to write a number of episodes, you have to record them, cut them together, then they send off to animation, and once it's there, you got to work with what they send back.
That's
and sometimes
correct.
it's perfect, and sometimes you have to, you have a couple of days or weeks to get it just right. I remember hearing a number of stories from some of the producers, like who were low-level staff writers and editors on Superman the Animated Series at the time, when I had a very, very brief stint at Warner Brothers, or subcontract by Warner Brothers. They talked about how, voicing was great. The storyboards were matched up, but when they get the animation back from overseas, they'd be missing some frames. So they had to actually do something in-house to try and fix that, and it took a while. And that's why there were some delays with the show. And now we're on the streaming side of things, where it seems like they're trying to they're doing it like a feature film as opposed to like a cartoon, where you have to get all the kinks out before you go into production. Whereas a feature film is like, oh, we got 2-3 drafts done. We think we've hounded out everything. Let's go take it to production. And if anything kind of happens while we're in production, we've at least got time we can fix it up, what have you. But I think on the streaming side of things, that time of like fixing it up or for prospective reshoots and whatnot is a lot narrower, because they're already scheduling the release date before they even started commissioning the first script. Whereas even with the cartoon shows, they're like, we have a window of this quarter of the year that we're going to drop it, but that all depends if we hit this deadline for turning in the scripts and getting it all recorded and edited together before it goes off to animation. And usually they allot themselves, if I remember correctly, at least, and this is from stuff that they told me in the 90s, because in the 2000s it got faster, but I think they gave themselves 6 months, a 6-month target window. So it'd be 1 year of writing plus 6 months, so an 18-month turnaround before the first episode would drop. And that's a long time to wait to see if what you did resonates with an audience. And that's why there was a lot of cartoons in the late 80s and early 90s that came and went really, really quick. And the ones that stayed were really, really good. I think it just had to do with the talent, the discipline, the experience, and the fact that a little bit of luck, where kids were able to see it and enjoy it. But here on the streaming side of things, we're circumventing the talent for whatever it is the producer wants. We're narrowing the window for production. We're setting a target that's locked in, that cannot be changed or moved too much, except for, I think, what was the rumor that She-Hulk and Miss Marvel swapped spots, essentially. And I mean, that's not good for either of those shows, because even Miss Marvel was reshot, and that cost them a lot of money. And it's like, well, you don't get that luxury with streaming too often. So now we're stuck in this. We have no real formula for how to do this, and that's why I'm with Paul, where I think if we got back to a network model type of stuff, a week by week basis, you shoot your first 8, and then you have a back 9. Or back 13 if you want to do a 20-odd episode season, to actually shape and find the sweet spot for the show for it to be a success. Because I always hate the arguments that some have posed, I've seen on social media, the series, television shows usually get good in the 3rd season. They're not supposed to get good. They're supposed to be really good when they start and get better as you go on. So that's my tirade there.
No, you're fine. We just have to let Culture go here. He has to head out. Thank you for being here this morning, Culture.
No problem. I was glad to be here amongst these dignitaries and these quality human beings and all the amazing folks in the chat. Check all of these gentlemen out. They provide more than enough entertainment information than you can possibly consume. And then there's me just yelling at the have a great day.
Actually,
and there's you having
check
a show.
out Culture's, as I say.
Afternoon.
That's right.
Yeah,
we'll
go ahead, Mikey.
Less than an hour, Mikey.
Yeah, I was about to say his show starts in less than an hour over at the Culture Casino channel. Like, subscribe to him, and become a member. He has fun, awesome streams.
I'm waiting for his review of the Meghan Markle show on Netflix.